Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars. Topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
Alright, everybody, peace. Welcome to the GSMC Basketball Podcast show, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As you guys know, I'm your host, Casuan, and we have got some very interesting stuff we're going to be talking about today, guys. Very, very interesting stuff going on in the realm of basketball today. And at the end of the show, we're going to be discussing the new rules implemented by the NBA in regards to resting their star athletes, what that means for the NBA and its teams for this upcoming season. And we're also going to be discussing the recent James Harden saga and where that's going to be moving forward and what that means for James Harden's career as well. And we're also going to be discussing the recent wave of star players that have either expressed interest or committed already to playing in the 2024 Olympics for Team USA, and what that means for the Olympics as a whole. But to start out this show, we've got a more serious topic to talk about in regards to Kevin Porter Jr., Houston Rockets guard. So for those of you who don't know, Houston Rockets guard Kevin Porter Jr. was arrested and charged with assault and strangulation in regards to an incident involving his girlfriend, former WNBA player Kisir Gondrzik, at a Millennium Hilton Hotel near the United Nations in Manhattan. Incident occurred on Monday night. Porter did post a $75,000 bail on Tuesday after the incident occurred on Monday, and he was arrested on Monday around 6:45 in the morning. And according to Assistant Manhattan DA Mira Cruz, she said this is a very serious domestic violence case. And according to reports issued out about the incident, Ms. Gondrzik currently has a fractured neck vertebrae and a cut above her right eye. Porter has been charged so far. He currently has been charged with felony assault and strangulation, like we said, but has posted bail. And the NBA is not allowed. The Rockets are not allowed to punish Porter Jr. at this time, while the NBA conducts its own investigation. And this is a very a serious incident, but it's more a reflection of stuff that we talk about all the time, as men, especially as professional athletes, that every action we take or we make is heightened due to our status and due to our profession and due to us being in the public light. Not to say this incident would be justified if Porter Jr. wasn't a basketball player, but we have to be extremely cautious and aware of the people that we're surrounded by and the things that can transpire from the environments that we put ourselves in. So if we find that we are constantly getting into arguments or getting outside of our realm of being able to control our emotions, when we're around certain individuals, whether it be a partner, friends, etc., we have to be able to remove ourselves from those incidents and from those people before we do something that we're going to regret. And having that ability to walk away is huge and it's key and it's so important, especially as a man. We have to have that ability to walk away and the ability to not put ourselves in these types of situations, and we have to showcase the ability to remove people that cause us to get out of character for whatever reason. And according to reports I know around the NBA, they say that this is unfortunately not a surprise that Kevin Porter is in this sort of incident. I'm not exactly sure why they said that, but I'm assuming it's because they know Kevin Porter on some personal level. I don't know Kevin Porter personally, so I can't say anything about his character. I can only say, what's presented in the media. And, we have to, like I said earlier, we have to do a better job of removing ourselves from these situations, man, and understanding that no one is worth losing, for lack of better words, no one is worth losing the bag over. No one is worth losing our job over, our money over. No one's worth that. And if there's someone that gets us out of character like that, if there's someone that causes us to do things that might be unbecoming of our character and our nature, we have to remove them expeditiously. We have to remove them right away. No questions about it. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that incidents like this have to occur, because it's not until incidents like this occur until people, young men, we learn from these moments. But unfortunately, we need to be able to learn before incidents like this occur, before it gets to this point. And based on the track record of the NBA and how they handled recent incidents involving John Morant, it would be, I'm not going to say what they'll be, how long the suspension will be, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's much longer, the suspension that Kevin Porter will receive, because he will receive a suspension just based on the evidence and the charges brought up against him, and how serious the NBA and really all leagues in the United States take domestic assault charges. I won't be surprised if Kevin Porter's suspension will be much longer than the one that John Morant received. And whether it's justified or not, we have to take accountability for our actions, and we have to understand that we can't put ourselves in these situations, regardless of who the person is. And once we start to take accountability for our actions and not place blame on anyone else, then we can start to make better decisions, and we can start to be more fruitful in life as well. And but I would love to know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think about this recent incident involving Kevin Porter. Share your thoughts in the chat room. Let me know what you guys think about that. It's unfortunate to see, and the biggest thing, like I talked about before, is not putting yourself in situations where incidents like this can occur. If you feel yourself, if you're with your partner and you feel yourself starting to become angry to the point where things might be able to get physical, you have to remove yourself right away. And never forget, if you guys, for instance, if you guys live together, and you guys start to get physical, or things start to get heated, just walk out. Just walk. Just either have her leave the premises, or you just leave cool down and come back, or anything like that. Something like that. Anything where you can just separate, because it's not worth it. It's just never worth it. No one is worth losing your money over. No one is worth losing your freedom over. No one is worth losing everything you worked your whole life for. No one is worth losing that over. And we should never allow anyone to have that much control over our emotions and our actions. So maintaining that self-control is so key, moving forward in life. But as more information comes out regarding this incident, we'll cover it more extensively, and based on the information we have now, that's what we can discuss so far about the incident. But it's it's unfortunate to see, but we have to take accountability for our actions, as I said. But moving forward, guys, Avengers assemble. We've got some interesting news to talk about regarding Team USA in our next segment. So guys, be sure to stick around. You're not going to miss it. Everybody, welcome back. Just in case you missed our last segment, we covered the recent news, an incident involving Kevin Porter Jr. We talked about that and the importance of, being able to remove yourself from situations that can become compromising for you, and the importance of not allowing anyone to get us out of character or to control our emotions to certain extents. But at the end of the show, guys, we're going to be discussing the James Harden situation and that saga and how that will turn out. And we're also going to be, we're going to be breaking down the recent rules implemented by the NBA in regards to resting star players. And before we get started with this segment, though, guys, discussing the recent assembling of the Avengers for Team USA, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well, so you can stay up to date on all of our latest content. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to us on Patreon, so you can stay up to date on all of our exclusive content that we post as well. And if you'd like to support our network and our company, follow the link in the ticker below, streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network /tip. None of this is possible without you guys, so we're just so grateful to you guys, the fans, tuning into our show each and every day and listening to our takes and our analysis on all sports. And if you haven't already, be sure to check out the GSMC Baseball Podcast, the GSMC College Football Podcast, the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast, and the GSMC NFL Podcast as well. All of our hosts provide great content and expert analysis on the sports they cover, and GSMC is your best place for all things and everything sports. With that being said, guys, let's go ahead and get into our next segment. So, Team USA, as we guys know, recently did not medal in the FIBA World Cup for the second time, for the second straight iteration of the FIBA World Cup, and that has caused recent speculation about where Team USA will be in terms of their roster moving forward, and how Team USA is currently perceived by the rest of the world. They're no longer perceived as threats, not necessarily threats, but they're no longer perceived as the dominant force that they once were back in the mid 2010s and in the late 2000s. Other countries see Team USA as beatable now, and not as this ginormous giant that can't be slayed. There's Team USA now seen as vulnerable and seen as human, and a team that can be beat. So now other countries have more confidence now when they go into matchups against Team USA. But recent reports have come out and said that LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Steph Curry, Jason Tatum, Devin Booker, Draymond Green, Chris Paul, Kevin Durant, and quite possibly Joel Embiid have all expressed interest in playing for the U.S. team. So that just got me thinking, what if we were able to construct a roster? What would be Team USA's ideal roster? If they had they normally don't carry 15 guys, so we'll say 12. We'll just say 12, okay? The ideal 12-man roster for Team USA. And I don't want to count Joel Embiid because we know he has dual citizenship with Team USA, with the US and France. Not necessarily sure if he would even consider playing for Team USA. I'm not sure about Joel Embiid. So we won't count Joel Embiid just for that sake, just for the intents purposes. So, what would be an ideal roster pertaining for Team USA? Let's just break it down. Okay, so LeBron James would be in there, Stephen Curry would be in there, Kevin Durant would be in there, right? 3. Devin Booker would be in there, Jason Tatum would be in there. Jimmy Butler would be in there. Jaylen Brown would be in there. Paul George would be in there. We're at 8. Damian Lillard would be in there. Bam Adebayo would be in there. That's 10. And yeah, I mean, so we got 10, and then maybe Chris Paul. You could also go Trae Young. You could go perhaps Bradley Beal. Though I'm not counting those guys, I'm just thinking names, but I do. We have 10 officially. Kyrie Irving would be in there, so that's 11 for sure. There would need to be some more low post presence outside of Bam and AD. You could bring back Jaren Jackson Jr. or possibly Bobby Portis. Karl Anthony Towns possibly, but he's playing for DR, so likely not. Just thinking of bigs. But that's 10 right there, presently constructed. Those are 10 for Kawhi Leonard. You could say Kawhi Leonard would play. That's 12. And quite honestly, you would live with that. You would live with that roster right there. Though they are slightly undersized, they would have the ability to run the court and get up and down, and they would be active on the perimeter defensively. So that would be my roster right there, as presently constructed. So I'll just name it back out to you guys. LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, Paul George, Bam Adebayo, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and we said Draymond already. Chris Paul. We just had the last person, but that 11 Anthony Davis. So yeah, those 11, 12 guys. Sorry, not Chris Paul, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Sorry. Yeah, so we got 12, 13 guys on that roster presently constructed, and we all know that Team USA will be far much more dominant and talented than what was presented at the FIBA World Cup. So that would be exciting to see. I'll never forget as a young kid seeing the Redeem team in 2008 play, and I was watching that was my dream team. That was the greatest Olympic basketball team ever assembled, because as you guys know, Team USA was coming off the defeat in not just the FIBA World Championships, but also the Olympics in Athens, where they got the bronze medal. And that's when Team USA started that reimagining process of themselves, and they brought in Kobe Bryant, and they brought in Mike Krzyzewski, and they completely changed the culture of Team USA and how things were done. And I remember there was so much pressure going into Beijing about how this team would perform, and would they be able to put USA back on top. And not only did they do that, but they did it in dominating fashion, and it was phenomenal to watch and to see, and just watching those group of talented players perform, with LeBron and Kobe and Dwayne Wade and Chris Paul and Jason Kidd and Darren Williams and Dwight Howard and Chris Bosh and Michael Redd and Tayshaun Prince and Carlos Boozer and Carmelo Anthony. There was so much talent on that roster, and to see all those guys and perform and change the culture for Team USA, it was beautiful to watch. And we all know the Dream Team 2.0 in 2012, what that consisted of. with Kevin Durant and James Harden and Russell Westbrook and LeBron James and Chris Paul and I believe Darren Williams was on that USA team as well. But, Kevin Love and Andre Iguodala. And Carmelo Anthony once again. There's a lot of talent on that team as well. And then this 2016 team with, in hindsight, that 2016 team was pretty talented as well. Kyrie Irving, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, DeMar DeRozan, DeMarcus Cousins, Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, Paul George, Klay Thompson. Who else was on that roster? Tyson Chandler was on that 2012 Olympic team as well. But I'm missing someone else from that 2016 roster. If you guys know, just let me know. Correct me. But I want to know what you guys think as well. Who do you guys think? What do you guys think was the best iteration of Team USA out of the Redeemed team from 2008, the Dream Team 2.0 for 2012, and the 2016 Olympic team? And we'll also throw in the 2020 Olympic team as well. Out of those 4 iterations of Team USA, which one was the best in your opinion? Which one's the most dominant? Let me know what you guys think. And obviously nostalgia is going to play a factor in coming to that conclusion, but that's totally fine. That's okay. And it as a basketball player, it'd be nice. It will be nice to see all of those guys buy into Team USA. And something that was interesting that Rudy Gay, former NBA player Rudy Gay, that he talked about on the podcast, how there's a difference between how Team USA runs their program compared to other countries. Other countries, players have to try out regardless of your status in the NBA and regardless of how you're perceived by the public and how good you are, allegedly, quote unquote. You have to try out for your country. Where Team USA, you're selected. You're asked to come to training camp. And Rudy Gay believes that takes away from the competitive fervor and the almost a sense of gratefulness and gratitude that players have playing for Team USA. And he said that he thinks that Team USA should go back to hosting tryouts, having guys try out for Team USA, to increase the the exclusiveness of that roster spot, and really to increase the value of it. Because just like with your work, if you don't put a monetary value on your work, or if you don't charge people for your work, they're not going to truly appreciate it, and they're going to take it for granted. And same way with roster spots, when you don't have to try out, you're just invited. You take for granted that spot and the opportunity to wear that jersey and to represent your country, and by playing the sport that you love. So Rudy Gay said something interesting, when he talked about that guys, Team USA should host tryouts, should have guys try out as opposed to inviting guys in. I concur. I agree with that 100%. I agree with that thought process. And that's something similar to what Team USA did back in 2007 and 2006. Prior to the Olympics, they had guys try out. They had to try out to make that Olympic roster. I'll never forget that Gilbert Arenas, who was in his prime at that time, was so close to making that Olympic roster, but he didn't. And there's got people that saying that he should have been on the roster, and personally I believe that he should have, but he had to try out and he didn't make that cut. But he did use that as motivation going into next season. But not to digress, the Team USA should go back to hosting tryouts to maintain the appreciation for that roster spot, and to make sure guys are truly appreciating that opportunity. But yeah, that is it on that, guys. And coming up, we're going to be discussing the recent James Harden saga and where will that be going in the future, and what does James Harden's future entail, not just with the 76ers but in the NBA as a whole. So guys, stick around, you're not going to miss it. All right, everybody, welcome back. In case you missed our last two segments, we went over the recent news regarding Kevin Porter Jr. and why it's extremely important to not only safeguard your energy, but also to be cautious and aware of the people that you surround yourself with in your inner circle. And if you feel like you're surrounded by people that constantly get you out of character and are able to control your emotions, then you have to remove yourself or remove those people expeditiously from your life. And we have to do a better job as individuals to control our emotions and not allow people to get us out of character, and not allow people to get us to that point, and being comfortable with removing either ourselves or people from the situation. And then we also discussed the recent assembling of the greatest talent and of Earth's mightiest heroes with Team USA, and the recent reports that some of the best players in the NBA have recently expressed interest in playing for Team USA in the Olympics next year in Paris. But in this segment, guys, we're going to be discussing the recent news regarding James Harden and what's going to be happening next with that saga. What does the future entail for James Harden? And before we get started, guys, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well, so you can stay up to date on all of our latest content. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to us on Patreon, so you can get access to all of our exclusive content that you can't get anywhere else. And if you'd like to support our company and our network, be sure to follow the link in the ticker below, streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network /tip. Listen, none of this is possible without you guys, the fans, and we're just so grateful for everything that you guys do and for trusting us with all of your sporting needs and content. All of our hosts here at this network are some of the best in the business when it comes to media, and we're just grateful to be able to have this platform to give our analysis and our insight on the world of sports to you guys. So just thank you so much. But with that being said, let's cover the James Harden situation and narrative. As you guys know, recent reports have come out and stated that James Harden does intend on being at training camp for the 76ers and coming up in the next couple weeks. This news coming out after the dynamic or the things that played out between him and Daryl Morey in the public face, with James Harden publicly calling Daryl Morey a liar and that he would never play for an organization that he's a part of. This after James Harden opted into his $34 million contract extension, however not getting a trade after he requested it. So where does this leave James Harden and the 76ers? We have to understand that though James Harden is a 34-year-old player with a lot of wear and tear on his body, he did lead the league in assists for the past 2 seasons, while also, however, having one of the lowest player efficiency ratings in the NBA. So what, as a student in the game, what does that tell me? That tells me that James Harden has the ball for a large majority of possessions, has the ball in his hand for a long time in the shot clock, and he doesn't always make the right read. But because the ball is in his hand for so long, and he gets so many opportunities to play make, he is going to get 10 assists. He is eventually going to get that 10 assist mark, and that's just from the playing perspective. But do we see James Harden actually getting traded out of Philly? We recently found out that he's got a couple of preferred options, 2 of those being the Clippers and Miami. But we know that the Clippers have stated that they're not going to trade for James Harden after talks with them in Philly fell through. And we know that Miami doesn't necessarily have the cap space as of right now to trade for James Harden. And it's it's an interesting dynamic. How often will James Harden be allowed to, as some people say, quit his way out of organizations? It's not, it's depending on how you view it. It's not a matter of, it's getting what you're worth. If James Harden feel like he's worth that max contract, it doesn't matter what anyone will tell him. That's what he's worth. That's what he thinks he's worth. And no one's going to change his mind about that. And even if you feel like Daryl Morey might have lied to you, there's a point where you have to honor your contract, and not for the sake of yourself, but for your reputation and how you proceed around the league. It's just so much easier when you have a more positive reputation to go about getting what you want in the league. But when your reputation is constantly stained by how you got out of Houston, and then how you got out of Brooklyn, allegedly quitting on your teams multiple times, eventually you have that reputation about you. And once you have a reputation about yourself from the public, it is hard to get rid of that. It's hard to get rid of that reputation. And it's more so a matter of, based on what I know so far about the incident involving Daryl Morey and James Harden, it was more so a matter of miscommunication. Daryl Morey said that, hey, if you buy in or opt into your contract, we're gonna find a viable trade option for you. And James Harden listens to that and he says, oh, they're gonna trade me. They're gonna make sure that they trade me if I opt in. Even though nothing was ever promised, it's just a matter of communication. Daryl Morey said, listen, we're gonna do what's best. We're gonna find a good trade option for you. And James Harden takes that as, okay, they're gonna trade for me. They're gonna trade me. So it's a matter of hearing what you want to hear in that instance. But at the end of the day, there are under the table handshake agreements that occur in the NBA. But you, as a professional, you have to honor your contract, and you have to take care of your business at the end of the day. And just from a playing standpoint, Philly has the opportunity to be one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. And with the roster constructed as it is, they have opportunity to make another run at this, at making the NBA Finals and getting out of the Eastern Conference. Both of their stars didn't show up in Game 7 when it mattered most, that being Joel Embiid and James Harden. So it's not a dead situation. It's not a bad situation that James Harden is in. If he stays in Philly, it's very much possible that they can win and they can produce something. But eventually you're going to have to step up in the playoffs. Eventually you're going to have to rise above in those adverse moments right there. And James Harden is shown in the playoffs that he's not able to do that. Though he performed well this past playoffs, but when it mattered most in Game 7, he didn't show up. He came up small. And that's just the truth. So it doesn't matter where James Harden goes, he's going to have that reputation about him. So he's going to have to change that eventually. He's going to eventually have to remove that stigma from himself by winning. We always talk about how winning cures all ailments. And if you're able to win, a lot of the other stuff gets pushed to the side. And people are willing to deal with it because you're winning. But, because he hasn't won in the playoffs consistently, and the fact consistently came up small, these sort of labels get placed on James Harden, and narratives like this get pushed more extensively. But if you're able to win and take care of your business on the court, then a lot of this gets done away with. But it's a positive situation that James Harden can be in if he stays in Philly. Has a great, for all intents and purposes, based on reports say, he has a great relationship with his teammates. His teammates love him. They like him, and they have Nick Nurse, and Nick Nurse says that he would like James Harden to be a part of the organization. And he has a new coach, Breath of Fresh Air, playing with a top 3 player in the league, in Joel Embiid. And what more can you ask for? So that's where I see this dynamic, this situation moving forward for the James Harden saga. But let me know what you guys think. Where do you guys see this dynamic moving forward? How do you see this playing out? But guys, in our next segment, we are going to be discussing some new rules that have been implemented by the NBA in regards to teams resting their players. What that means for the NBA and what that means for the stars. We're going to discuss all of that up next in the final segment of our show. So be sure to stick around. You're not going to miss it. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back. In case you missed our earlier segments of the show today, we talked about the recent incident and news regarding Kevin Porter Jr. and the importance of safeguarding your energy and not allowing other people to dictate and control your emotions, and not allowing other people to get you out of character. And if you're surrounded by people that get you out of character consistently and can constantly cause you to be frustrated, or be upset, or become angry, then you have to either remove those people expeditiously from your life, or you have to remove yourself from those situations. And why maintaining that self-control is so important in your life. And no one is worth losing everything you've worked so hard for in your career. No one is worth losing all that over. And we also discussed the recent wave of NBA superstars that have expressed interest in playing for Team USA in the 2024 Olympics after the performance from Team USA in the FIBA World Cup. And we also discussed the James Harden saga and what that could entail, what that will entail, and what we know so far about that situation, and what that means for James Harden's career. But guys, in our final segment, we are going to be discussing some recent news regarding the NBA, and that's some new rule updates that have recently been implemented and will be put into use during for the start of the 2023-2024 season, so it's the upcoming season. And those rules are regarding teams resting players. But before we get into it, guys, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well, so you can stay up to date on all of our latest content that we post daily. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to us on Patreon as well, so you can get access to all of our exclusive content as well. If you would like to support our network and our company, just follow the link in the ticker below. It's streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network /tip. Once again, that's streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network /tip. Guys, none of this is possible without you guys, the fans. We're just so grateful that you guys take time out of your day to tune in and listen to us, and to listen to our analysis on the many sports that we cover. So we're just grateful for you guys being on our platform. So just thank you so much. And if you haven't already, be sure to tune into the GSMC Baseball Podcast, GSMC College Football Podcast, the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast, and the GSMC NFL Podcast as well. But with that being said, guys, let's get right into it. So recent news coming out of the NBA regarding the rules update for this upcoming 2023-2024 season regarding teams resting players. So let's break down the actual rules, what it looks like, and what it means for the NBA. So let's look at the rules. Let's see how it's going to work. Okay, so first part of the rule is that no more than one star player is unavailable for the same game. So, for example, if you had a Boston Celtics team with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, if neither of those players are determined to be injured, then the Boston Celtics would not be able to rest both of them. They'd only be able to quote unquote rest one of those star players. But be that as it may, last season, the Boston Celtics anyways only had one game where they were without both Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. So, first part of the new rules, no more than one star player is unavailable for the same game. Second part of the rule, teams must ensure that star players are available for national TV and in-season tournament games. So let's use the example. So the Phoenix Suns host the Portland Trail Blazers on November 21st, and then host the Golden State Warriors the following night on ESPN. Devin Booker, let's use Devin Booker for example. Devin Booker wouldn't be allowed to sit out the Warriors game for rest because it's a nationally televised game. Even if it's the second of a back-to-back, the second of a 2 games in 3 nights, it doesn't matter. Or sorry, even if it's the third game of 3 games in 4 nights, they will not be allowed to rest their star players if it's a nationally televised game. The third part of the new rule change: teams must maintain a balance between the number of one-game absences for a star player in home games and road games, with a preference for those absences to happen in home games. And that rule kind of started to come about when LeBron James would rest for road games, and that caused a lot of backlash by the fans because a lot of fans, especially when it's the East Coast team versus our Eastern Conference team versus the Western Conference team, a lot of those fans buy those tickets just so they can see the opposing conference player that's coming in, and you only get a chance to see them once a season, once a year. And if that's that star player isn't playing because of rest, you feel like you wasted your ticket. So putting that rule in. But however, it's hard to not see this from a player perspective with me being a professional player, basketball player. It's not our issue. It's not our prerogative. It's not our quote unquote problem if a player or if fans want to come watch us play, but the teams and coaching staff and you the player feels in your best interest to sit and rest in regards to being ready for the playoffs. And yes, I understand you have young fans that want to watch you play and look up to you, but it is a business at the end of the day, so you have to do what's best for your body. But also because it is a business, you have to be willing to put your product out there, and that's where the NBA players are in right now, and they understand that's the business. So I see it from both perspectives. However, because I am a professional player, I see it more from the player side. But the fourth part of the rule change is that teams must refrain from any long-term shutdown or near shutdown when a star player stops participating in games or plays in a materially reduced role in circumstances affecting the integrity of the game. For example, the Washington Wizards shut down Bradley Beal for the last 10 games of the season last year with what the team called knee soreness. But however, under the new rule, Washington would have been investigated by the NBA for potentially violating the resting policy. Same case goes for Damian Lillard, who set out the Blazers' final 11 games last season with right calf soreness when the team was already out of playoff contention. Another part of the rule is that teams must ensure that healthy players resting for a game are present and visible to fans. And this one isn't necessarily new, but it was included in the 2017 update of these rules. And fines for this can run up to $100,000, $250,000, $1.25 million, and this like we talked about, that last part is to ensure that teams, especially when those East Coast West Coast games, the teams or the fans are still able to at least see the opposing conference players that are there, that they only get to see once a year. And I understand the reasoning behind this is to maintain the revenue, because a lot of fans don't want to come to the games anymore in person because they're not sure if the star player is going to play. So the NBA is just trying to re-up on the money that they lost last season from fan turnout, in whatever capacity they lost it. So I do understand that. But guys, those are the new rule changes that have been implemented by the NBA in regards to teams resting their players. Let me know what you guys think about that. What are your guys' thoughts on those new rule changes? And guys, that's all we have for our show today. What an amazing show. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well, so you can stay up to date on all our latest content. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to us on Patreon as well, so you can get access to all of our exclusive content that we post daily. And if you would like to support our company and our network, follow the link in the ticker below, streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network /tip. Once again, that's streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network /tip. None of this is possible without you guys, the fans, and we're just so grateful that we're able to present you guys with our analysis and our insight in the world of sports. And if you haven't already, be sure to check out the GSMC Baseball Podcast, GSMC College Football Podcast, GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast, and the GSMC NFL Podcast. All of our hosts provide great insight and analysis on their sports, and they are some of the best in the business. And I'm grateful to be able to work with them. And, we will be back again, same time tomorrow, guys. Continue to stay safe, be vigilant, make smart decisions, and until next time, guys, peace.